Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing out there in paradise? Hope you're all being safe, taking good care of yourself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob. Some people call me Bad Bob. And I'm coming to you from maximum security prison somewhere in America. Today I'm bringing you part three of a three-part series. In part one, I told you all about how while escapee, I went back to a prison and helped several inmates escape. Then in part two, I told you how one of them snitched me out and I got arrested, and then I escaped again, going to court. Now in part three, I'm going to tell you all about um, them putting me in isolation and trying to get me to confess to a murder that I did not commit, that it turns out probably didn't even exist. And the tactics that they used to try to get me to confess. I can't say the word on here or they will shut this video down just for saying the word. But when you listen to the video, you will know exactly what their methodology was. I'll just say sensory deprivation. So I hope you all like the video and hit that like button and also hit the notification bell. Speaking of notifications, a lot of people have been complaining that they're not receiving notifications when my videos come out. Talk to YouTube about it. They say there's no problems. They make up all these excuses. And the bottom line is there's nothing I can do. So I would suggest that you unsubscribe and then resubscribe and hit the notification bell all over again. That has worked for some people, and for some people it hasn't. And maybe you can contact YouTube and voice your complaint. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry, but I'm having problems with those people. Seems that there's people out there that don't like Bob being on here. I'm not going nowhere. Hope you enjoy the video. Have a great day. Alright, so in part one, I told you all how I helped some other prisoners escape back in the day while I was an escapee. And then in part two, I told you how one of them snitched me out for helping them, and I got arrested, and I escaped again, albeit momentarily, because they caught me right away. Now, this is part three. Now, in part three, well, let me just get right into it. So, after they arrested me for the escape, they got me down at the jail, and I heard this guy snitching to the police, something about a murder. So they put me in an isolation cell, okay? Now, I've never seen an isolation cell like this before, but this isolation cell, as soon as you open the door, you have to step down in order to enter the cell. And it's about a 1 foot. You step down about a foot. Then there is a shower in the cell, and there is a drain in the floor with a little drain cover on it. I later found out that the drain doesn't work though. So they took my clothes, they literally stripped me, and there was no mattress in the cell, there was no sheets, no blankets, no nothing, just cold steel and one roll of toilet paper. And there's an air vent all the way up at the top of the ceiling, and this thing, oh man, it was about 2 feet wide and about 18 inches one direction, 2 feet the other direction. And the air blew out of it so hard that I would take the toilet paper and I would wet it. And I would throw it up there real hard, make it stick. But the air blew out of there so hard that it wouldn't stick. Now, any of you who have been locked up, you know how that goes. Normally if it sticks, but that's how hard it was blowing out there. and the air was freezing cold. So that first night, I froze my ass off. I took toilet paper and rolled it around me to try to keep warm, but as soon as I moved, it all broke and just fell off. So it was useless. Well, the next day, take me out of the cell in the morning to talk to some homicide detectives. I don't know where they were from, but they put me in a little holding cell, and they got these two cops there. And they say that they're here to talk to me about a murder. And before they could say anything else, I said, I want a lawyer. They said, well, who's your lawyer? I said, I just got arrested. I don't have a lawyer. But I'm not talking to you without a lawyer. So they leave me in there and they leave, and then they come back and they take me out of the room and take me around the corner to this other room. And they got some dude on the phone who claims to be a public defender. And he says, they want to talk to you about some homicide. So my advice is don't talk to them, but you can if you want to. I'm like, are you crazy? I don't want to talk to them, and you're not my lawyer. You tell them to put me back in my cell. That's what you tell them. And handed them the phone, and a minute later they hung up, and they took me back to my cell. But as they were escorting me back to the little room where they were interviewing me, they said that they'll be back. And when they come back, they guarantee that I will talk to them. And I was like, yeah, right. You think you can make me talk to you? You're crazy. And they said, okay, we'll see. And so they left. And they take me back and they put me in my cell. So about an hour goes by, maybe 2 hours, and all of a sudden my tray slot pops open. And they stick the nozzle of a fire hose in there, and they spray me down for about 5 minutes. And let me tell you, like when you stepped into the cell, you remember I said it was like a foot deep? Well, that water just collected in there, and that drain didn't work. So a couple hours go by, and they come back, and they top my tray slot for lunch. And all it is a pie pan with a bologna sandwich and a piece of fruit on it. I can't remember if it was apple or orange. And they set it on the tray slot, and I'm laying on the bed. I don't want to step in this water, but if I want to eat, I got no choice. So I lean over, I wheel my feet over to the side of the bed, and I step down in the water. And as soon as I got 1 foot into the water, which was very cold, I might add, all of a sudden, they pushed the tray into the water and slammed the tray shut. And I was like, man, are you kidding me? So I start banging on the door, telling them, bring me another tray. And the cop comes up to the door and says, shut the fuck up. Excuse my language. And, I didn't realize that in this jail, you don't talk back to the cops at all. And so I argued with them for a few minutes. They left, and by by dinner time that night, the water was still in there, and I was really cold. The water being in there, for some reason, it made it get colder in there with that air conditioned vent blowing the way it was. So when dinner time came around, dinner was a pie pan with beans and a big old piece. The cornbread was good, by the way. Big old piece of cornbread right in the middle of the beans, and that was it. And it was one of those pie pans, so that had a lot of, it had a lot of beans on there, and it was even hot too, and I scarfed that stuff down. It was good, because I was so cold. And this time, I didn't waste no time wading through that water to get that tray either, because I didn't want it going in the water. And so this went on for quite some time. Turned out to be weeks and weeks. So after a couple of weeks passes of going through this routine on a regular, every day, same thing. If I wasn't up at this tray slot in time, they would just throw it right in the water, and I wouldn't get nothing to eat. So this went on for a couple of weeks. I would guess it was 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, one night, they pulled me out of the cell. And when they came to the door, they said, "You got visitors." So I knew it couldn't be nothing but pigs. So they bring me clothes, I put the clothes on, and they handcuffed me and walked me to the interview room again. And prison, same two homicide detectives. And, they said, "How you doing today, so-and-so?" And I just sit there and look out. Said, "You ready to talk to us now?" And I said, "No, I want a lawyer." And they said, "You don't want to talk to us? Are you sure?" I said, "I'm quite sure." He said, "Well, I guess we're just going to have to turn it up a notch then, huh?" And I was like, "Man, look, you can turn it up all the notches you want. I'm not talking to you. Not now. Not ever." So he said, "All right, we'll be seeing you." And they left. And this cop, there's just one cop too, but he's a big old sucker. He comes and he's escorting me back to my cell. And this hallway that we're walking by, it's got a drywall wall on one side of me. On the other side, there's another hallway that leads into where there's some offices. And as we walked up to where that hallway was, I happened to turn to the left and looked at the door. And that dude said, "Oh, you want to escape again?" And then he slammed my head into the wall. I hit from the sideways. And my head hit that wall so hard that, drywall is. It punched it right in. Big hole where my head hit. That hurt very bad. He puts me back in my cell. And, I just go through this same old routine every day. They keep the lights on 24 hours a day. They keep that air pumping. And I left this part out too. Every single day, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, there's no window in the cell, so I don't even have a concept of the time. I judge the time by when they feed me. But every morning, a couple hours in the morning before breakfast, they would stick that fire hose in there and hose me down. This went on every morning. So I was like, man, after about 3 weeks of this, I can't say, you know what it is, I just can't say the word for it. So I'll call it sensory deprivation. Because if I call it what it really is, on me, shadow banning me. So several weeks of this goes by, and I'm like, man, how am I going to get out? I can't take this. I'm really, really going through it. It was tough. But then all of a sudden, they just dropped the charge and took me back to the penitentiary. And see, normally you would have stayed in the penitentiary anyway until you went to court. But for some reason at this time they kept me in the county jail waiting to go to court. So thankfully they took me back to the penitentiary, and life went on as normal, and they didn't charge me. They dropped the charges and everything. And I never heard another word about the so-called murder. Well, I already knew that murder didn't exist because I didn't do anything. And so life went on, and that was the end of that. And always remember that fools learn from their mistakes, but wise men learn from the fool's mistakes. And I would encourage you to be a wise man and learn from this fool's mistakes. Otherwise, I'll be seeing you in here real soon.